We have with us Maurice Agostino from State Highway Administration, Daryl Braithwaite, Director of Public Works for the City of Tacoma Park, and Brian Kinner, the City Manager. So the way I think the program is going to work, we're going to let SHA walk everyone through their proposal. Then everybody can ask all the questions that I know many people have. There is going to be a representative from the police department to come later on after the program so we can discuss the other issues that people have brought to my attention. So, Maurice, it's up to you. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Yeah, I can hear you without. Okay. My name is Maurice Agostino. I'm from the Maryland State Highway Administration's Office of Structures. We're in downtown Baltimore. We are the project lead for this project here. I want to introduce Fred Breyerman with Johnson, Merriman, and Thompson, our design consultant, and Dave Mernon. He's from our District 3 traffic office. He's here to help out with some traffic questions if we have them as well. We've been working on this project for probably 3 or 4 years now. Daryl and I started out meeting probably in 2009, 2010, working through a lot of the issues on this project. So I'm going to give you an overview of what we're doing here. I will warn you, I am a structural engineer. I am not a traffic engineer. We had hoped to have our design traffic consultant here. They canceled at the last minute, but whatever questions you may come up or discussion points you have, we can certainly take them back, take them in, work with Daryl to address them. This is part of the working groups that we were talked about establishing back at the City Council meeting back in this past June, correct? It's an 81-year-old structure. Very little has been done to it in 81 years. It has served us very well. It's a good structure. It is eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. So our task is to kind of restore it to as close to original condition as possible and also upgrade it to current standards as well. It is one of Maryland's 81 classified as structurally deficient bridges. That means it's on our radar. It's a structural deficiency is a warning sign to bridge engineers to address concerns with it and do rehabilitative action. Our plan here on the structure is to basically remove everything above this arch ring. Yeah. We've done this on a similar project on US 40 over the Patapsco River and on the Baltimore-Howard County line. That project came out wonderful, and we restored the bridge basically to its to its original condition. We will rebuild it basically in kind, replacing the concrete deck, the floor beams that carry the deck, and everything above those rings. One of the things that this difficulty presents, you notice if you go out right now on the bridge over 193 over the Capitol Beltway, they're able to rebuild that bridge in stages. They maintain traffic on half the bridge and then reconstruct the other half of the bridge. That's our standard, 1950s steel beam bridge. The main supports run with the roadway, carrying the load of the traffic. Well, on this bridge, you have these floor beams. Those carry the deck. We can't cut those in half and still maintain traffic on the bridge, say with a temporary signal to alternate traffic on, one direction of traffic over the bridge each way. We have to be able to, if we're going to reconstruct it, we have to basically shut down the bridge. Now, we did look at potentially building like a temporary bridge to carry traffic. And what we found is the impacts to the park, the amount of roadway we'd have to build temporary roadway were significant. So we proceeded with, let's look at what we can do from a detour standpoint. Initially, we looked at a detour that involved 195 to 410 and back up Maple Avenue and back to Flower Avenue. Because the parkway was closed on Sundays to traffic. We worked with Maryland National. We asked for kind of a temporary lifting of the Sunday restriction. So now we're able to use Sligo Creek as the primary detour and sign that for the duration of the job. And that provided us the shortest detour of about a mile in length. We did do a traffic study to evaluate the impacts to traffic and the adjacent intersections, which resulted us in needing to put temporary signals at the Sligo Creek Parkway at Maple Avenue and also at the hospital entrance and Maple Avenue. We also had to add a three-way stop. Make these a three-way stop at Sligo Creek at Parkway and Old Carroll Avenue, and also at Flower Avenue and Maplewood Avenue to address concerns with the intersections from the additional traffic. Carroll Avenue carries about 8,000 vehicles a day, based on the latest traffic counts. We recognize that this additional traffic is going to cause additional congestion. This is already a congested area.
When you say Carroll Avenue carries, you mean the bridge gets 8,000?
8,000 vehicles go over the bridge, yes, at that location. We have coordinated with the hospital. Some of their main concerns was additional bus traffic going through the cut-through road. We worked with Maryland Ride-On Transit. They're able to, basically, since we are able to use Sligo Creek Parkway, address their detour the same way. We met with local Montgomery County Fire to discuss the detour impacts. They feel, as long as they have enough notification and enough warning, they can adjust their response time. So we've been working with a lot of stakeholders trying to make this project go as smoothly as possible. One of the things we usually do when we do these type of detours, and we've done it, it's been successful in the past, is to include an incentive-disincentive clause in the contract. And what that does is we say this work's going to take X amount of time. You, the contractor, we will provide you a monetary bonus for every day you open the roadway earlier than that time. What that allows us to also to do is, for every day you don't open the road, we can assess a monetary penalty, and that usually gets their attention. It's the penalty that usually gets their attention. For every day you don't open it, it's a continuous penalty. And we've done that successfully in the past to get projects open usually early, if not on time. Just a couple other things as far as the scope of the project, what other things we are including. We are improving there's some drainage facilities and the approaches to the bridge, the roadway drainage. It seems to be quite a bit of ponding there at the bridge. We're going to address that. Also the sidewalks. There's a section of sidewalk from Old Carroll Avenue to the bridge that's not there. We're going to add that. All the sidewalks in the project, and our project limits right now, are from Jefferson Avenue to the hospital entrance. All the sidewalks will be upgraded to meet current ADA standards. We are also widening the bridge about a foot on each side. That'll allow us to provide the full 5-foot bicycle shoulders that the community has expressed a desire for. At the same time, our district office has just started a study to look at addressing the sidewalk from the hospital entrance to Flower Avenue along those retaining walls. The sidewalk is narrow, has utility poles in the way. There was a lot of interest in that at the public meeting we held last November to try to improve that. Our duration is what we expect. One other thing. During construction, the bridge will be closed, but we are constructing a temporary pedestrian bridge next to the bridge to maintain pedestrian traffic at the same level, same height of 195 they currently are. We recognize it's a heavily pedestrian movement through this area, so we will be maintaining pedestrian traffic. We also will be maintaining the trail underneath, so whether it's through protection above it while they're doing demolition work, that'll remain open at all times. So the way we see it working at this point, we are working towards having the project go out to bids next February in 2015. If with that kind of schedule, the contractor will probably start work late spring, early summer. His first order of work is to construct this bridge, which will take some time. This is not a little structure that's going to have to be built. There's also some utility poles that need to be moved out of the way. So there's a lot of preliminary work. The temporary signals have to be constructed. So we would anticipate the road being closed sometime, probably around this time at the earliest next year, early fall. When the road is closed, and what we would include in the incentive clause is the contractor must be ready to have all his materials, must be ready to work. He can't just close the road and just sit around and do nothing. He's going to be told, and that's what this incentive allows, is he knows he's got to, use every day he has is valuable to him, or else he's going to lose money. We did a schedule on the work that the road will be closed for 12 months to get the bridge reconstructed. Based on what happened, and this is a picture of kind of the work that was done on the US 40 bridge. They actually built that bridge. They actually did that work, which is it was kind of a dual structure. It was larger than this one. They were able to do the work in about a year, and that was a larger bridge. They actually had more time to build the temporary bridges for US 40 than it did to reconstruct the arch bridge. So we expect about a 12-month construction duration for the road being closed. There will be work after the road's reopen, landscaping, maybe some of the sidewalk work, some of the paving that has to be done later, but that work can be done, with nighttime lane closures and while traffic's, back on the bridge. So that's kind of a brief overview.
Yeah, do you anticipate that the road will be open at New Hampshire Avenue and such?
Yes, I've spoke with our construction folks. They expect that to be done by the end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, now one of the reasons we've been holding off on this job is as far as like scheduling, knowing when we were going to schedule it, was to make sure that was done.
Right.
I mean, there was an issue with the contractor earlier this year. They had to actually
They would
redo.
have had a lot of penalties, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, they have. Every job includes like standard penalties for that
Give
they.
us an idea of what kind of disincentive the contractor will experience.
Well, there's actually a formula of how it's developed. It's based on, there's something called road user cost. It's basically, when you close a roadway, there's a cost to the person, gas to go around, time. It's a traffic engineer. They develop a road user cost. In the past, depending on, if you were closing the Beltway,
let's talk
so
about
this job,
the other one that they closed.
I don't know if there was an incentive on that job specifically because there wasn't a total closure of the bridge. On our typical jobs of like something like that, $15,000, $20,000 a day is not unusual. Sometimes more, sometimes less.
And the incentive is similar?
Similar, yeah. So there's there's on these jobs, contractors got a small margin. That extra money is worth it to them, and they usually hit it.
Okay.
Well, they didn't hit it at the transportation center in Silver Spring, and they didn't hit it on the bridge. It was the actual pouring of the concrete. So, do we have any assurance that you're gonna hit it?
I've been with State Highway for 19 years in the bridge office. That was the first time in 19 years that a contractor poured a deck and had to have a rip it out. That typically.
Which of those two were the first time?
I don't State Highway had anything to do with the transfer center,
Okay.
but from a bridge standpoint, from our office,
Okay.
and I will say, we have contract specifications, and the contractor has to perform the work within those specifications. And the contractor didn't perform those work within specifications. He didn't build a deck that was strong enough. We had to rip it out. I mean, there was no choice there. But that was the first time I've had a contractor had to have a deck ripped out that I can recall in my 19 years of service. So I would expect on a job like this, there is some complexity to this job. The contractors you're going to get bidding on this type of work will be able to handle the type of work that needs to be done, especially when there's an incentive, disincentive. That scares them off.
A couple things. One is we had the earlier bridge over Long Branch was replaced about 10, 12 years ago. And they ran into surprises there where they were digging new foundations and they're running into erratic.
We're not digging in the ground here. We're maintaining the existing supports, so there's no concern about, well, we're going to dig in the ground and there's rock where we didn't think there's rock and there's soil. That uncertainty is out of the way. I'd like to get some of the people in the back here.
What's the impact to Sligo Creek Parkway underneath it?
The parkway will remain open. The vehicle restriction on Sundays has been lifted for the duration of the job.
On both sections?
Only from
Old Carroll
to Maple. That's the only section. The rest of it's left. Yes. So I guess someone would probably go over one of the bridges to get to the trail and use the trail kind of as a bypass for that section on Sunday. Gentleman in the back.
Yeah, I actually have two questions. One is the hours that the work will be done. And then the second thing is on your map here, you have things that are temporary. But some of those actually, as a neighborhood, we might want to make permanent. And for example, the three-way temporary stop sign at Maplewood and Flower.
That would be, Carroll says Flower and Maplewood are city roads. Flower is now a city road. That would be up to the city.
Both sides of it.
Yeah, that would be up to the city at some point to make that call. Now, the temporary signals, again, those would be Merrill National and the city as well. Would be, that would be something that the city can work with the community to see if that's something that needs to be done.
But I mean, there's no difference between a temporary stop sign.
No, stop sign. No, the stop sign. No, the temporary signals are. There is a little bit of a difference. They're kind of, but the stop sign, yes. The stop signs, again, if the city feels that they're warranted to remain in place, can certainly remain in place. Yes, ma'am.
I live on the corner of Maple and Erie. My husband and I are bicycle commuters.
Okay.
Part of your detour is part of our commuter route. Is there any plan for a designated bicycle lane?
On Maple,
Along the detour route.
Along
the detour route. No, not there are.
The road is wide enough, I should think, to sustain one.
Okay.
If you're going to be routing the detour traffic along that section, I think perhaps...
Would you be looking for like a share of the road, or would you be looking for actually a striped bike lane?
Well, I'd like a striped bike lane.
But would you be looking for?
Maple or Maple?
Yes, I'm working at Maple.
Maple is very narrow at the bridge, so there couldn't be any marked lane.
Well, I mean, between the end of Maplewood and the bridge.
Maplewood. Could you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you point us?
That's
Going straight down this hill.
That section.
Okay.
It's fairly wide.
We can evaluate if there's, if there's striping that can be done.
Oh,
Fred, can you? Yeah.
Can I also just interject something
Sure,
here?
Daryl.
We'll continue to roll this conversation on. Part of what I want to make sure people are aware is the city is intending to set up working groups, and you guys are the first working group, on a neighborhood basis to ask the city council for consideration of a wide variety of traffic calming measures and traffic restrictions. So any of the ideas that get generated today, they're going down on my list. We'll continue to communicate with you, and if you would like to formally set up your working group for the Maplewood, Maple, Flower neighborhood, we can establish that, and then we're hoping that later, say in the November, early December timeframe, we'll be taking that list of potential traffic requests to the city council from not just your neighborhood, but all the other impacted neighborhoods where cars could potentially be cutting through to try to get around the detour. And then that way we'll create an overall plan for traffic calming and traffic control outside of what's specifically state highways purview and on city roads. So any of these ideas, I would encourage you to raise them with Jarrett, raise them with me, and continue to bring the issues up, and we'll take a look at each of these.
I had written to Jared, and I think he forwarded it to Ms. Braithwaite. Yeah, Ms. Braithwaite. With regard to the buses, the 12 and the 13 come down Flower, and they go across Carroll. Maplewood Avenue is really narrow, and to have coming and going buses with 8,000 cars and whatever is coming. I know the 17, there's another bus that goes up to college. What I don't understand is why, well, first of all, why the college gets purview over saying, no, we don't get any more buses when the neighbors clearly get the brunt of that.
Well, it was that. I'm sorry.
And number two, why can we reconsider having the buses go through the college? Through the front of the hospital and back down Sligo?
The hospital was very adamant with the additional bus traffic. I know. I understand that they were concerned with, emergency, response to the hospital.
It's also a private road, so we don't have public rights on that road. It's a private hospital driveway. It functions as a driveway.
Are they working with the community? They just said we're not going to permit it.
Well, I think we can continue to talk. I think they were concerned about additional bus routes. There's currently, I think, two bus routes.
There's 2 buses that go through
go
there.
through that hospital. And so they didn't want to see any additional bus traffic routed through there as a detour. And of course, that was initial conversations. We can continue to talk to them. I don't anticipate a change in that.
I agree. Maplewood is narrow. I mean, Ride on Transit did go and evaluate the detour. They said they could use the detour.
Well, I know that when the 25 used to come up Maplewood, it hit cars on a number of occasions.
And
because
one of
they
the
weren't-
plans
it
is
wasn't
to
lined.
eliminate parking on one side of Maplewood. So on the college side of Maplewood, the assumption is we would eliminate the current allowed parking. So there would only be allowed parking on the residential side of that street. So you'd have that much more width for the buses.
Can you say that a little louder? Also, so can we ask also about? I'm also concerned about Maplewood with kids. There's a lot of kids who live on the street, including mine, and I'm curious about the parking and also putting in, a bump of some kind. But the idea of sending all those buses down our street and 7,000 cars makes me slightly panicked. We already have a lot of school buses, and it already feels very congested. So I don't know.
Yeah, we've had Stacy Coletta, who's the ride-on person, looking at this project. I don't know if that's who you
Yes,
guys work
I believe
with.
so, yeah.
We've also been talking to her with the Flower Avenue project in general.
We
So
have
we
to
can,
reevaluate the bus route. I mean, that's,
we'll continue to raise those
Is there,
issues.
wait, so the parking you're thinking will be only on the residential side and not on the hospital side?
Right, currently there's permanent parking on both sides, so we'd eliminate it on one side, turn it into no parking.
And what about, is there talk about traffic calming mechanisms?
there is a bump, there is one bump.
One speed hump there.
One speed hump.
But I think we're talking about, would there be another one in the middle maybe, or?
Yeah, and that would be up to the neighborhood to request and ask, so if that's an interest, we could certainly take a look at that.
But you're not adding any traffic calming mechanisms. For example, you're putting in the three-way stop at Flower and Maplewood, and there's currently one stop sign at the end of Maplewood where it hits Maple, but there's not a second. Will there be another one? I mean,
There's be a signal at Maple and the Parkway and the hospital entrance and
What is the reason that there's a stop sign instead of a stop light at Flower and Maple? Because it seems to me that there's going to be a tremendous amount of traffic going up that way, and Flower is already very congested, particularly at rush hour. It's going to be very difficult for the car, and it's sort of a blind turn. So it's going to be very difficult to manage the traffic well at that intersection.
I have to get the specific traffic answer for that. I mean, it's
Okay.
based on the traffic study and our analysis of traffic at the intersection, that's what they
So,
thought would be
I mean, I'd like to make a
necessary.
specific request that be reconsidered for a stop light instead of a stop sign.
And specifically, that the idea of, as these things get implemented, being open to adding a new solution. If
Right,
you
I mean-
decide that we gotta have a three-way stop, and 2 weeks later,
There has to be
it's a
an
mess.
evaluation of what's happening, and yeah, there has, Dave, I mean, you can speak to this, when something goes to construction, if there's corrections that need to be made, then, we kind of look at ways to improve what's going on, right?
Yeah, I mean, for example, this is not near here, but Cedar Lane of 355 had a 3-month closure over the summer. And the number of bells and whistles we added after the fact were innumerable. So we can definitely make changes once this goes in I mean, there are definitely field changes allowed.
So a few other concerns. Sure. On Maplewood Avenue, right now, there's a sidewalk on one side, on the residential side of the street, but 2/3 of the street, there's no sidewalk from Maple on the way up to Flower. And if we're eliminating parking and increasing traffic dramatically, I don't know if it's possible, but you might want to consider adding a full sidewalk then to that side of Maplewood, if there's going to be a lot of people walking as well as cars. When cars come down Maplewood and are making that left turn down onto Maple, they are right at Edinburgh Lane. What kind of, we've already had lots of talk on our listserv about cars that think there's a shortcut to go through to Sligo Creek Parkway by going straight ahead.
And this is kind of one of the main...
What kind of signage or...
And
prevent,
throughout, that's been the concern, not just of your neighborhood, but the other neighborhoods surrounding, is the cut-through traffic. And that's what we're trying to work with Daryl with these groups, is to add signage and, you know,
and that's
like
nuts,
the traffic
because-
only, and,
because if cars go down that one little piece, then they're stuck going back up,
Right.
and they're coming back out on
Yeah.
Maple again.
we've gotten the same concerns from people at Jefferson in this neighborhood as well, and we're working on the signage.
Yeah,
Some of the
comment on that,
neighborhoods
Sligo?
have already directional constraints. I mean, the, what is it, Sligo Park Hills or whatever? Yeah, and so,
Well, and a comment I've been.
are those going to be relaxed?
Park Valley, I doubt.
Not as part of this job.
Just a comment on well, Park Valley is not within the city, it's in the county, and they've established the traffic restrictions as part of a neighborhood traffic calming project that was approved by the county. We can start the conversation with the county, but I wouldn't hold out for a lot of, given that it's considered outside the zone of the traffic impacts potentially.
But when the state comes in and does something like this, I mean, the rules don't change. I mean, we just have to absorb it.
Well, I think if Park Valley were directly leading into one of those roads, then I think the conversation might be a little different with the county, but since we're a few streets removed, I think we're not likely to gain much traction. I won't say not. I mean, Jared and I can reach out to the county and have that conversation. It was a pretty messy political battle, so I don't know that anybody's going to want to wade back into that one again, but you know, stranger things have happened. I just wanted to raise the issue about Edinburgh Lane because I've recently had some communication with some residents about that. The challenge there is there's been a request for no local traffic. Our city police don't really like that type of signage because they can't enforce it. No local traffic, how do you determine if somebody is local or driving through, or how do you define a neighborhood? So there's a less support of that, though if the neighborhood asks for that, it could certainly be raised as a request. Because your address is on Edinburgh Lane on the west side or Sligo Creek Parkway, the worry was if we said no access to Sligo Creek Parkway, deliveries or other first arrivals would say, wait, but it's 7921 Sligo Creek Parkway, I'm supposed to go this way. Yeah. So the latest thought we had is sort of a double sign, which again gets sort of complicated. 6911 to 8013 Sligo Creek Parkway with an arrow, and then no access to Sligo Creek Parkway underneath is what is currently being mulled around. But if any of you have some additional ideas, because the addresses are Sligo Creek Parkway, but we want to try to communicate that it's not.
I have no idea. I mean, what if Edinburgh Lane became one way from the top of Maple Avenue going down to the bottom? That would prevent anybody from entering it from the bottom. I don't know if it's too inconvenient for my neighbors, but that's one thought.
That would be a problem.
And that's the kind of thing that the neighborhood needs to discuss and talk and come up with. And again, like we've already talked about with other state highways issues, it may be that after the project starts, you're inundated and you decide that that inconvenience is suddenly a little less than the current inconvenience. So those things can be revisited, but I think we're hoping we can establish a list of traffic calming measures that get instituted before the project starts.
Just want to note, there actually will be a separate side detour for trucks that uses just the state routes.
That's useful.
195 to 193 to 320, so that for trucks. So we're not directing them on the local roads.
So they'll be prohibited from this route.
Just in terms of additional signage, I think it would be nice to maybe blanket the neighborhood with a lot of children at play signs. I mean, there's lots of kids in the neighborhood. I don't know how effective those are in terms of people seeing them.
Carroll.
And then also, I'd love for you to bring up that discussion at the county level. I think that's very important. We're kind of boxed in that neighborhood now. We can't access that road at all. And then a third point would be just above Erie and Maple, going up the hill to Kennebec. That stop sign is blown frequently. I've seen significant increase in police.
At Maple and Kennebec?
At Maple and Erie.
Oh, Maple and Erie.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a stop sign that is not utilized.
It's generally considered an optional stop sign.
Optional stop, and as you go up the hill, it's a blind, and it's a matter of time till somebody goes into somebody on that. And I'd love to see some type of maybe a some calming measure put in there. A lot of kids on that road.
We recently experimented with what we call the stop bar hump. It's something that DC has done. We've since taken it out. It wasn't really an appropriate location. If any of you drove there, it was at Flower and Jackson. We've recently installed a raised crosswalk there instead. But a raised stop bar hump may be something that could be thought of for Maple and Erie. One of the problems that you have with stop signs is if it's visible to the drivers that no car is coming, they are less likely to stop. So Maple and Erie is one of those classic intersections where it doesn't fit the requirement in terms of enough cross traffic to warrant people being nervous and stopping. So you get a high rate of violation of the stop signs there. But the stop bar humps are seen as a way to sort of at least slow cars, if not bring them to a stop, because they have to really accelerate to get over the hump. It takes the place of the white bar. It's a 2-inch high, 12-inch wide, or 2.5 feet wide hump in the road. So that could be something that would be looked at.
Yeah, but something like that, it will tear up the bottom of your car too.
Well, with just 2 inches, you really wouldn't get
Yeah,
much.
I get scraped a lot, and I'm not even going that fast.
That's already 10% grade
Yes,
there,
it's,
and a bump on that
you
is
have
going to be
be
real
some
exciting.
concerns with the slope. Speed humps themselves in the city are 3 to 4 inches high, so this is intentionally lower than that at 2 inches, so it really should not do any damage to a vehicle, even passing over it in total violation at a high rate of speed through a stop sign.
But if people are coming up the street that comes off Sligo where they can then turn on to Maple. Maple? Yeah. The people coming down that hill don't seem to stop at that first stop sign because they took that bar away. And I've almost been blindsided a couple of times. So I stop here, but if I go forward, then someone else comes slamming down thinking that they don't have to stop. So you may want to look to make sure that all the right signages are up. Yeah, you know, the white bar.
Houston?
It's right there on the edge of, right across from where you can park in Sligo. Yeah, they just run that thing.
There's 2 stop signs real close to each other.
Oh, Kennebec.
One at Kennebec, going down Kennebec and turning.
Has there been any discussion about traffic going down one street and coming up another street?
Oh, in terms of making roads one way, that's certainly within, what we
Not that I
anticipate
would want
hearing
to
from.
do that to neighbors, but.
Yeah. Well, and the potential suggestion of Edinburgh one way would be one of those. Yeah, that really is a neighborhood-based discussion. You all have to weigh the pros and cons of that.
Well, there's no place to do that here.
There's going to be some streets in a section of Carroll Avenue between the bridge and 410 where that will probably be looked at as an option.
I noted over where New Hampshire is closed, the neighbors have put up, I don't know who's put them up, these no detour signs. But they really don't look all that official, and I was just wondering, are they official?
They're put up by the city and they're temporary, so yeah.
I mean, I'd love to see some of those, but maybe something that has a little more oomph behind it. They're kind of, not all that visible, I feel, and they do look like the neighbors put them up and they have no authority behind them. And I guess in regards to the no detour, is that actually an enforceable anything?
No.
It's just trying to be
if the
kind.
police were to pull people over and
How
then
would
say,
you
where are
know?
you going? It's not an enforceable thing. It's trying to reach that 15% of the drivers that will comply versus those that know where they're going and
They're just
where
gonna
they're
go. Okay, thank you. Have you had feedback on that road? I know they've put a lot of cones up. Has that helped with the calming?
Talking about Heather or?
I can't recall the street, but it's, when you're going down Sligo, you go up the hill and
Heather
you make a
Avenue,
right.
lots of issues on Heather Avenue with the residents there. We put a weird cone
Yeah,
section for a sidewalk, impromptu
that
sidewalk
helped?
for kids. I think it is slow traffic for sure, but they have such a high volume there. I think during rush hour, they feel very inundated.
I'm sure.
Questions? It's kind of a traffic engineer question, but you were saying that current traffic is about 8,000 cars per day. Do you have any experience with how much the traffic drops, especially with the trucks being diverted and nobody doing it twice?
As far as like, there is some assumptions made on the detour that people will take other routes.
Okay.
And I think it's 30% or so. There's a certain, I mean, when they do a traffic analysis, that people will find alternates. They may, come from 193, they may come, go from 410, they may find other ways, especially those who are just using 195 as a commuter route. Yeah, there is some assumptions made. The traffic study is also on the website, the full traffic study.
And there's a lot of traffic that goes to the hospital, and most of it's coming from the north.
Yeah, we actually did a study to evaluate the traffic movements in and out of the hospital to see how much impacts there would be.
And that won't be precluded.
No,
You can still
no.
make that turn.
No.
Yeah, there'll be signage at Flower and Carroll that indicates if you're going to the hospital, you can continue through the intersection and go to the hospital.
And Daryl, we can, we're close to having the actual signing
Oh,
plan
great.
that you can have to kind of work with the neighborhoods to address, what signs we have where.
Do you have a sense, Do you have a sense of how many cars go down Maplewood currently and what the uptick would be?
I don't have that off the top of my head. No, I don't.
But so you're saying that it could be 30% less than
30% than the 8,000
from
that
the
are
8,000,
right.
And then something of that is what's going to be
Correct.
coming
And there's
down
some of that's
Maplewood.
trucks and some of it, yes, there's a distribution.
But you don't know what the uptick looks like because currently there's no assessment of what we currently see.
On Maple?
Yeah, on Maplewood, yeah.
I have to go back to
Probably
look.
in the traffic study.
Yeah, I have to look at the traffic study. I don't have that off the top.
Can you make the traffic study available?
It's available right on the website.
We can make sure the link to for the city's website is working to get you right there. And any of you that got the flyer, the mailer, it's right there on the mailer, the access.
Have you identified the contractor? I may have missed it.
I'm sorry.
Have you identified the contractor?
No, we're still in design phase. Our target is to actually advertise it for bids in February. Then there's about a 5-week bidding process for the contractors to put their bids together. So March to April next year, we would have the contractor known.
Is the same contractor that's going to do that's doing the New Hampshire one? Are they allowed to bid on this?
Unfortunately, they are allowed to bid on it. Yes. Any contractor that can secure bonding from an insurance bonding agent can meet the requirements, can bid the work. It's low bid.
You do have a experience on time kind of thing in your contract, right?
Correct. Yes. The incentive.
So you're going to evaluate that before.
Well, again, any contract. Unfortunately, the way the state procures work, any contractor that can secure the bonding is allowed to bid. Now, we have lots of contractors that do great work. This was kind of the
As part of the evaluation factors of who you're picking, have you decided?
we don't get, it's low bid. Whoever submits the lowest bid. Yes.
Oh, wow.
The signals, the temporary signals that are going to be put in, will they have any provision for motion detectors associated with them so that they aren't on a timer?
We're looking at interconnecting the two signals and phasing them. Yes, there's some design going into that.
But they'll be phased. But I'm also wondering, if
as far as
in terms of some optical something with them so that they won't just be you won't be just stuck at a light if no one's around.
They typically temporaries use optics now, don't they? Or
I would assume that there'd be video detection of some sort.
Okay.
Probably video detection.
Video detection.
We don't really put loops in anymore.
So you mean that if they have all, as far as her question about evaluating the bids, you mean that if they have met all the criteria,
Yes.
then the low bid?
Correct. Yes, they have. There is in their bid. They have to submit requirements. They have to meet certain requirements.
Why couldn't their on-time record be part of the technical acceptance? That's all I'm saying. It'd be part of the technical evaluation prior to going to the low bid. I've worked in government contracting for years, and it's not. This is the way you can do it.
We can, but this is going to be a low. Basically, this is our standard contract.
So there's no technical evaluation. It's
No.
purely cost evaluation.
Low-
You got
low
a bond and you have.
He meets minimum qualifications to submit a bid. He's allowed to submit a bid.
Okay.
Well, submitting a bid is one thing. Winning the bid is another.
Correct. Correct.
It's just based on like a fundamental flaw in that argument.
Some will say there is. Yes. Some would definitely say there is, yes. But it's the state procurement laws that.
The other intersection that seems really, really risky about being successful here is this 45-degree angle turn off of Carroll.
That understates
down to Old Carroll.
That understates.
And you're saying that there'll be three-way stop sign there. I mean, right now there's a stop sign when you're coming out of the park.
Right.
And you take your life in your hands trying to make a right or a left turn from there. Now, the one-way stop, but it's going to be a all stop
freeway
at all times.
Yep.
Because, all right.
I recognize this is not the easy solution.
No, well, it's a beautiful bridge, and we like to keep it beautiful.
The bridge, I will tell you, is on a 6-month inspection cycle. It is time. It's one of our highest priorities to address. Yeah, we really need to get to it.
Wow.
There's a lot of debris falls off it.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of patching just to hold things right now.
Yeah.
I'm concerned with this traffic pattern. Our streets are so narrow that right now, 2 cars can cause gridlock. I mean, they can't pass each other going in opposite directions. I'm on Erie.
Yeah.
and I know Erie's good. We have cut throughs now.
And your big trucks that
we have trucks. We have some crazy yellow thing at the end of the street.
And that's what we're trying to do here as far, the cut through was at the public meeting, that not just your neighborhood, but the other neighborhoods. That is was the biggest concern raised, and that's why we've kind of tried to establish these working groups to see what we can do to make it better.
When 2 cars are passing on Erie right now, one has to be able to find a spot to move over to let the other car pass. Yeah. And as I live on one corner, I don't want to be.
I mean, what we can say, somebody does that once as a detour, if that's the issue, they're going to probably look for another, they're not going to use that again.
And that may be the kind of situation where we would at least think about making it a one-way street.
Yeah.
But if you live at either end of it, then you've got to go.
I understand. No,
it's going to be
Edinburgh one way. I got to go around a long way to get to my house
there's
too.
businesses on that street too, so that if you're cutting them, then you're going to cut the business.
No, I'm not saying it's a good solution, but it might be a solution.
No.
One thing I notice is a lot of hospital staff park in the neighborhood and they don't use the hospital parking ground for. So, I don't think we don't have permit parking up there, but I think getting the hospital staff to actually park at the hospital.
Daryl, I guess that could be outreach, definitely.
There could be, unless you have permits is the only way to do it, but it does create a lot of.
There is the permit parking issue. We had a meeting today at 1 o'clock with the university just to, touch base with them again about this project, and they made a few requests. They're faced with the same inconvenience of hospital parking that affects student parking on Greenwood in particular. They're planning to not allow parking on Division Street at all, so that will remain no parking on either side. They're asking the city to consider restricting parking on one side of Greenwood, so there would only be parking on, or is it now just one side? They want to eliminate parking on both sides. I think the idea is between Carroll and Division, no parking on Greenwood Avenue. According to them, they think it's largely hospital workers that are parking there, as opposed to students. The college has an issue where all students with cars are supposed to register their vehicles and be assigned a parking area, so they're supposed to be able to manage their student parking within the off-street parking on the campus. They're also going to be adding a parking lot. I'm not sure of the construction schedule on that. So this is a conversation that's currently in the works. I think that the city will be communicating with the hospital, and that's one of the issues that we'll be trying to reinforce, that they really need to be a partner in this with roadside parking of their employees. They do have shuttle bus service and parking up at the Adventist school, so there are options that the employees can take advantage of. Whether or not, what we can do to incentivize that is something we need to talk to the hospital about.
I have a question that relates to the Flower Avenue Green Street project. Will there be an overlap with this?
The Flower Avenue Green Street project has been a bit delayed as a result of working with WSSC and now Washington Gas, so we're trying to get the utility work underway. So we're looking at a 2016 start date, if the Carroll Avenue Bridge starts mid-2015 and finishes up mid-2016, we could just miss each other, but we're obviously aware of each other, and we wouldn't do any construction down at this end as long as the Carroll Avenue Bridge was still in the works. We may start work up at the opposite end, the Piney Branch end of Flower Avenue. So I think it's likely that we hope to be breaking ground on the Flower Avenue project before the Carroll Avenue Bridge is finished, but we wouldn't be working in the same area.
As you consider different types of speed bumps, I think it would be nice to think about making them more bicycle friendly and including kind of bike lanes in the speed bumps. It does get difficult going down these hills with the speed bumps sometimes.
Yeah. That's a constant issue. Currently, the city doesn't have any speed humps that we have approved that have a cut through because primarily our worry is that cars will use it as a wheel path for one side of their wheels and put them out of the drive lane. Right now, the bike friendly, and I use that with all the unintended meaning, the bike friendly speed humps tend to be what we call the county standard, the more curvilinear 20-mile-an-hour speed hump. Those are available and are installed by the city and can be requested by the community. So we can do the county standard speed hump, which is more bike friendly. The city speed hump, which is a 5-mile-per-hour speed hump, is definitely not bike friendly. Some would say it's not car friendly either. And then the last is we do leave a space at the gutter pan to allow bikes to pass through, but that's providing there isn't a car park there, providing there isn't debris there, so realizing it gives limited access to bikes. But we currently do not have a speed hump with a cut.
Questions?
I have actually a question for the city, and this is an issue that I brought up before, is that in coming to this meeting tonight, I had to remember whether it was 7 or 7:30, but when I actually went to the city website, I saw no information whatsoever about this, and I don't know. Are we like a secret cabal that's meeting, or is this supposed to be a public meeting? Because if it is, in fact, we should be able to go to the city website and find that information before the date and be able to share it with our neighbors as well as consult it ourselves. And I don't know. I looked very hard to try and find it on the city website. I did not see it there.
I don't know, it might have been confusion when we do this e-news, weekly e-news, and oftentimes things get posted in there and then they're intended to be carried. Because we can't have everything on the front page, sometimes there's project-specific links. You have to go to Public Works projects and link to it. I don't know what the answer is here, but yeah, I agree, we need to have it more.
Because we have the
readily
paving
available.
of other parts of Tacoma Park and we have other activities, but I mean, this certainly impacts our ward, but it's beyond our ward, really.
I have a question. Can you outline exactly how neighbors can contact you if they want changes? And can you give us an estimate of how long it would take for you guys to review it and then implement those changes?
I mean, our hope was with the changes for the local is to kind of work with Daryl to have her be the single point of contact as far as the traffic calming and within the neighborhood streets. But any general questions, again, through our website, I get the emails. I've gotten them from many residents in Tacoma Park about questions about the project. I'll be happy to take them and answer them personally for you. And again, anything that can come through Daryl would be also, she'll directly send them to me and we'll work.
Once Daryl sends you an email, how long would it take SHA to review the request?
It depends on what it is. If there's some design work or traffic analysis, it may take a few days to a couple weeks to kind of do the analysis. I mean, I have to send it to our design engineer. Other things could be that day. I mean, so it depends on what it is. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to circle back for 1 second to the idea of kid safety during all this, especially on the really high traffic Maplewood, which is the most high traffic. Is there anything that we can do to, I don't know what, alert drivers or do something that we can create some space that we know that is safer for these kids?
I mean, traffic calming measures and signage and just public notification and outreach.
Well, the potential for the sidewalk extension seems to me one aspect. I mean, we'll have to work with you all to try to keep kids to stay on the sidewalks. I don't know how possible that is. Elimination of parking provides, wider travel lanes, which gives a little more margin.
Well, the other possibility is our friends in the police can shift their attentions from the people who do the rolling stops along Maple Avenue to the people who are threatening our children on Maplewood.
So, other than the entry point on Flower Avenue, did they assess the volume impact on Flower Avenue of the diversion?
Yeah.
Does it change it?
I have to go back and look at the study, but yes, they evaluate the entire network when they have to do a detour and how that impacts.
Was there a material change in the volume on
I'd
Flower?
have to go back.
Or is it really only on Maplewood?
I'd have to go look at the study.
But we can learn that if we actually go to the traffic study.
The traffic study is on our website. Yes, it's listed in one of the documents. Yes.
Will there be an opportunity to talk to the traffic expert at some point in this process?
They're all, yeah, we can definitely have our traffic engineer. I'd hoped to be at this meeting, but I'm sorry that didn't happen.
Maybe you can come to the council meeting in November.
You want to set that up early, that would be best that way.
Okay.
So in between then and now, maybe we should all meet
Yes, that's the
and
idea.
have a big powwow.
Yeah, I'll share this contact list with Jared, and then however you guys want to coordinate or organize yourself, if you want the city staff to attend, or you want to do it informally amongst yourself, we're open to anything. We're all kind of feeling our way here. We anticipate having these groups in a bunch of different neighborhoods impacted by the study, or the work. So.
And the comments that have been made at the public meeting last November and other meetings we have been incorporating some of them where we can. I mean, this project, the sidewalk from the bridge to Flower Avenue, was something that was a big issue at the public meeting, and our district office is starting, a design study on addressing that. So, and there have been improvements to the detour plan since, with comments received from the neighborhoods already. So, yeah, I'd hope to have some stuff that would be, help improve what we have already. We recognize the issues we had on the 650 job with public outreach, and we're really trying to correct that on this job.
Good job. Is that it?
One more, sorry.
Sure, no, that's all right.
There's just pure curiosity.
Okay.
When you describe, and it's your area of expertise, when you were talking about technically what you're changing on the bridge, why is it that the arch is staying, and was it structurally fine?
The arch is in good condition, yes. There's some minor little spalls or little cracks that need to be repaired, but no, it's in good condition. We want to keep as much of the bridge as possible. Now, we could have gone in and, this one's bad, this one's good, this one's bad, this one's good. This one only has a little bit of crack. We could repair this one, we could reconstruct this one. And we finally said, what we learned on the bridge on 40 is when we started getting into it, when we started looking at it, it's easier for the contractor to just rip everything above the arches and build new than it is for him to try to repair a piece of this one. And then, 20 years from now, the one that you just did a repair on is going to need more work. So we get in, do it right, fix it right this time, and stay out.
How can it be a historical monument if you're going to rip the whole thing out except for the base part? That's my question.
Okay. We follow every project that has a historically eligible structure has to go through the Maryland Historic Trust. And it has to go through what is the NEPA, which is the National Environmental Protection Act, as far as what we have to do to make sure we don't impact any environmental features. They are okay if we take a historic bridge and basically reconstruct it exactly or as close to exactly as the way it is today, the way it exists. We can't go in here and put steel beams. We can't go in and change it radically. But they recognize that in order to maintain the structure, that there are things we have to do to restore it and repair it and rehabilitate it to keep
As long
it.
as one beam exists.
You know, almost that is kind of the case.
So it'll be all concrete.
It's all it'll look as close to, you know, as it is today. We're even utilizing the balustrade. The balustrade we're using is slightly different, but it is actually crash tested. So,
Good.
you know, it meets current safety standards because this is a low-speed roadway. We can actually put a balustrade. On 40, we couldn't replace the balustrade the way it is. We had a solid barrier that had the balustrade mimicked in the stamped kind of into the sides. So, it'll be all stained. It'll all be uniform in color. It'll look. The 40 bridge definitely looks really nice. It came out really well. We hope to do the same exact thing here.
What's the total cost of this project?
Right now, the estimate is between $3.5 and $4 million
For construction or for design?
for construction.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
Maurice, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So everyone, this is just going to be the first of many meetings. We're just beginning. So, yes, I'm going to announce it. Yes. So just wait 1 second. I saw that there were some emails regarding suspicious activity in the neighborhood. So I have brought Captain Fishorn here. He will answer any questions you guys have, and he will give you his contact information and tell you some things that you can do to make sure that everyone's safe. Captain.
I don't know what the specific concerns are, but if someone wants to bring them up to me, I'm in charge of our support services, which is our investigative section. The crime ambulance works under me, so he keeps me up to date on anything that's going on with the crimes. Our crime ambulance is new. He's only been here for a little over a month, but he fills me in every day on what the different crime trends are. If there's anything specific that you want to bring up that I can answer.
What are the crime trends?
Recently,
What suspicious activities are you responding to?
well, recently we've seen an uptick in stolen autos and theft from autos. We did recently have a call a couple days ago for suspicious activity. There was a citizen that called in. There was some people that were breaking into a house. One was acting as a lookout. One was in the house. We actually caught them. We ended up closing several burglaries out of it. A couple on Piney Branch, a couple within the city. Some of them were in Montgomery County. One of them was actually in Wheaton. So, you know, we work with all the surrounding jurisdictions when we have something like that. When we realized that situation involved Montgomery County, we immediately called one of their detectives who met up with our detective and kind of handled it jointly. Suspicious activity calls, we want you to call it in. Sometimes you might not see someone come out because it's our SAT team that comes out. Our SAT team,
What is SAT?
It's our special assignment team. And basically it's a plainclothes unit of several guys. We'll task them with, like if we have drug investigations that are going on, we'll task them with that. Any special investigations, stuff where we need surveillance done. We've had, if we've had theft from autos, we've deployed bait car before, done stuff like that. I don't want to get into exactly what we do, but we had purchased a couple of cameras that we can put up to monitor an area. You know, if we see someone targeting a specific area, we can put up these cameras and hopefully get some video evidence. So, you know, if you call in and you don't see someone, you think that someone didn't come out, you can always ask to talk to the watch commander or the sergeant that's working, and they can tell you, you know, what's going on with it. Sometimes they'll defer to our SAT team if they're working because they're in a better, they have better capabilities. They're in cars that are covert that you wouldn't even know is a police car. And they'll sit up intentionally sometimes and just watch the person for a while, watch them go out of the area, see what they do, see where they go. And that's the way sometimes we'll catch someone breaking into stuff or,
Some of the things that have happened in our area on Edinburgh Lane, after you enter Edinburgh Lane at the bottom end of Maple Avenue where it turns right, that last house there, there were like a dozen kids hanging out in the yard. What time of day?
2 o'clock in the afternoon.
And later that evening, the guy whose house it was discovered that several bicycles had been stolen.
Yeah, we have had recently a lot of bicycles stolen. In fact, I just asked our analyst to put together a list of the bikes that the officers would have, all the different make and models. But we tend to see that in the summertime a lot.
That's what happens when you make a city bike friendly.
Yeah, and we just our officers just stopped a bunch of kids from DC who came into the city on bikes, dropped them off, and took other ones to go back. I don't know why they would, unless they're just trying to get rid of it because they took it down in their area. I don't know.
Just join bike share.
But yeah, we are looking at the bike stuff too. But we always see an increase in that in the summertime because there's a lot of people that leave their bikes out unsecured.
Has there been an uptick in, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't refer to it as gang activity, but like group activity between like Maplewood and Piney Branch? I've noticed like Houston, Roanoke.
Not really. Over near Houston, we've had an increase in stuff, but we have our SAT team and even patrol units have been doing special targeting over there. We had a call the other day for a guy with a gun. A citizen saw a guy with a gun going into 636 Houston. We ended up stopping him, identifying him. Actually, the gun that we recovered was a muzzle loader type gun. It was you don't see that on the street. It was a cap and ball gun, which in Maryland is not even considered a handgun, so you can't even charge someone with it. It doesn't fit the definition of a handgun. But because someone was alert and called, we were able to get out there and catch them, and that's what we need a lot of, because sometimes people will want to call, they'll see something they think suspicious, but they won't call because they figure out the police don't want to be bothered with this. We're waiting for stuff like that. That's how we end up catching stuff and closing cases, because the citizens are working with us and calling in. So even if you think it's something minor, there's someone in the neighborhood who you don't recognize and they've been hanging out, it's not going to hurt us to go by and just talk to them. Hey, what's going on? You live around here? You visiting someone? What are you doing? They may have a reasonable explanation for why they're there.
Just to bring up the most difficult aspect of this, sometimes the situation will be, you'll see 3 or 4 African-American teenagers hanging out in the yard, and you don't want to be a racist idiot and just say, well, there's black kids hanging out here, so there's a problem. And yet, the issue is, there's kids hanging out here I don't recognize, period.
Right.
But I think people are reluctant to make a call
They're reluctant to jump to a conclusion.
that others might think is a prejudicial call.
Well, I think that people should call about everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to say,
And that's why I'm bringing this up.
yeah,
But I
just
think
call
it's
something the action that you're looking
Yes.
for. Are they doing
Yeah.
anything suspicious,
It's
regardless of
simply
what-
people I don't
What is
know.
like standing
Exactly.
around suspicious? I mean, I'm the one who saw all these teens and someone.
12 kids in the yard.
It looked odd, but not
They
suspicious.
belong,
Yeah.
do they belong there?
I don't know, maybe they're friends.
And that
I
could
mean,
Well, we have
give
never
us
seen
don't
anything
know.
like it.
Yeah,
that could give us an opportunity to come up and say hi and talk to them.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It
But
doesn't,
now-
it doesn't
yeah.
have to be a negative thing. We're not going to go up and throw them on the ground and do all that. We're going to go up and ask them, what's
Right.
going on, and conversate with them, and see what's going on. If they're doing something wrong, they may run, they may not want to talk to us.
And I think what Jared says is right. It's like, just call, it's better
Right.
to overdo it than.
Yeah.
And that's what the word in the listserv ultimately became. It's like, the only way we're going to make a differentiation of what's okay, what's not okay, is anytime you have a question, just give them a call.
Just trust that little voice. If you feel something is going on, it probably is.
And it is kind of like when I worked at my children's elementary school, and their teachers would sometimes tell me things that they wouldn't have told me if I didn't work there. So if you would call about the 3 white teenagers standing
Yeah.
there, then you don't have to worry about it. But teenagers need some place to be able to stand and be left alone too. And not everybody can join all the recreation activities.
You'd be surprised at how many people would say, we respond for a burglary or another crime, and someone says, well, I saw some suspicious kids or some suspicious people walking through my backyard last night. I thought there was something wrong with it, but I never called.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, walking through your backyard is a little, that's, not just people standing around.
What
just having a place
what
to
I'm
go.
saying is, a lot of times people will have something that they were thinking I should have called on, and they don't call because they don't want to bother the police with it, and then later on, there's a crime in the area which may or may not have been caused by that person.
Or they worry it's going to take a long time on the phone explaining it, or people are going to come visit them. There's a lot of excuses to not call. But if we call when we're uncomfortable, it's probably the only way.
But it's
to
proven
do it.
though, when the community is involved and works with the police and lets us know stuff, there's a better response to everything.
Captain, I wonder if you could explain the Safe Cam program that you talked about in July with the council.
Yeah, there's a Safe Cam program that we're trying to start up. They're using it in a couple different cities. And what that is instead of the city putting out cameras like Big Brother and monitoring everything, it's people there's a lot of people in the city who already have their own video surveillance on their property, surrounding their house, surrounding businesses. So what we're trying to do is the Safe Cam program would put all of that information in one database for the police. So in essence, how it works is if you purchase a surveillance system for your house, not only can it help you in a variety of if someone breaks into your house, you're going to have footage of it. But what we would do is we would ask for participation in it. It's not mandatory. It's only if you want to. And if you want to participate, then you just register your camera with the police department. And basically, there's a database that's secured that's only accessed by the company, by us, and our detective unit. And say there's a theft, a robbery, burglary, whatever in the area, we would go into this program, and it has a Google mapping system where it will tell us all the people that are registered in that area. And we would contact you and say, hey, we had a crime in your area. Do you mind sharing your footage with us for your video? You don't have to, but we assume that if you register your camera that you want to work with us. And we've had, in the last year and a half, we've had a lot of closures with video footage, mostly from mostly from businesses, but we've had a couple from residents. We had a burglary up on Ritchie Avenue from a residence. We had a guy that did a couple carjackings in the city. Believe it or not, we arrested him, and when he was on bond, he came back and did it again several times. He was a mini crime wave. So most of the time when you see an increase...
That's an overachiever.
When you see it, and that one, we solved some stuff in D.C. too, and there was some residential footage that we got in D.C. So, a lot of times when we see an uptick in something like burglaries or robberies or thefts, it's normally one or two people, and they just keep doing it until we catch them. And then when we catch them, it goes away for a while until the next person comes in and keeps doing it. I can't tell you how many people I've locked up for 4 and 5 burglaries that they've done until you catch them, and that's just it happens all the time. Especially if you were to go up in Silver Spring or one of the courthouses and just sit there for a day, you'd be amazed at how many people they let go on different things. So we can only do so much, but that's when we see upticks and stuff, especially like burglaries, where we see certain methods of operation that we know how the person works, and then we end up tying them to a bunch of them. Like these guys we just got for burglary, they're tied to at least 4 burglaries and probably theft from autos and everything else in the area. The adult lived right off of Maple Avenue, so.
Any more questions?
Just you mentioned traffic before. I noticed that the police officers, they really haul up Maple Avenue. And I know they're, sometimes on call and they've got the lights, and other times they're not. So I think it's important that we see our officers abide by the stop sign regulations as well. If you could just maybe pass some feedback back to people on
We're
that.
getting ticketed like crazy.
Right. For going through the stop sign.
I did write down a couple of the locations you were talking about earlier to give to our traffic officer to work on over near your area.
Maple and Hilltop, Maple and Lincoln, Maple and Ritchie, Maple and
There are motorcycles now that just fly down Flower Avenue, and I don't think they have mufflers on, but they're really going fast.
Near the college or up further on?
I'm right on the corner of Flower and Maplewood, and by the time, once they get through the stop sign at Houston, they're flying. So, and a lot of it has to do with the girls' dorm. So they don't want to
Yeah, I can let our
I think
traffic
there's a lot
officer
of
know.
that until it gets cold and it stops in
Maybe in your part of Flower.
It's not.
Probably not, certainly not your jurisdiction. Recently, on Sligo Creek hiker-biker trail, I've seen people with these electric bikes. Are those, you know, and they're just zooming
Electric
along.
bikes are they're considered bicycles.
They are considered.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they go so fast. And
Yeah,
Well,
we were looking
15
into them.
miles.
We actually tested a couple of them, and they're very nice because, I mean, you can go all day, especially with all the hills in the city. You know, you can go, you pedal it as a bike and you just ride it as a bike, but if you get tired, you can use it like, kind of like a motorcycle. It doesn't go that fast, but you can go a long time on those. But yeah, they're different from like a...
So on Sligo Creek, in electric mode, they're
Yeah,
not
what's
a
not allowed is
motorized
like-
vehicle, but they're just a battery vehicle.
Yeah, it's not like a scooter or something
As long
like
as you
that.
can step through it, it's a bicycle.
Well, scooters are step through also, and they changed the law on that a couple years ago. I was kind of mad because I have one, and it's kind of like a recreational thing, but now you need to have a license for it, you need to have insurance, you have to have a tag, so you have to have the same thing as a car. I guess there were too many people getting in accidents.
We had some experience with that. We've got to step through. And the problem is the difference in jurisdiction between us and DC. And
Yeah, that also-
she got pulled over by the DC cop because she didn't have a license on her scooter, but it's legal in Maryland like that.
Yeah.
I was riding on Eastern Avenue.
I had the same situation. I drove into DC, and I didn't know what their
30 feet
laws
into
are down there, if you're allowed to drive a scooter or
It
not.
took 6 police cars
Just slow you
to
down?
pull over a grandmother.
Were you running phone?
I complied.
All right.
Question in the back?
Yes. Question about profiling, that you could be accused, and that's one way to get the cases thrown out of court. When we call them in, would that help you?
When you call, what do you mean?
When we call in suspicious activity, then you're not going in because...
Yeah, that helps because we're going for a reason, and we got a description of the person, and there's a lot of, the law is very difficult to, like say if we get an anonymous tip, there's a difference on how we handle something like that, whereas how, and the courts look at stuff differently, but yes, it's always better if we get a call and we're coming out and we're looking for a specific person based on a lookout that we get and based on a call.
Time to go home.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
guys.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.